Hi guys, welcome to Christ Curls and Conversations. Today we are on with Heather, and Heather is out in the United Kingdom, all the way in Wales, and I'm so excited to have her on today. I actually met Heather through Instagram when we were talking about law of attraction and masturbation, and she actually has an Instagram account that shares about the testimonies of the law of distraction. That's her Instagram handle. And she talks about a lot of like law of attraction, new age stuff, sexuality. It is really, really amazing. And I was able to go on her podcast and we just shared a lot about our old life with Christ and how Christ basically pulled us out. And I'm just really happy to have her on to share her story. So Heather, if you want to jump on in, when did pornography first come into your life?
Yeah, and it's such an interesting question because it's one of those things that was such a gradual thing for me. Hey everybody, just so glad to be here and sharing this stuff. And the stuff that I'm going to be sharing is totally candid. I since coming to Christ, and actually before Christ, I was very open person, and it's part of my testimony that I had a lot of pride. I had a lot of what is the word? I just thought so highly of myself. But taking that initial question of where did pornography kind of enter my life, and it really is. It sort of started. I lived opposite a bra factory. Would you know it? And they would used to be, and I'd walk across to get to school, and you go past this Gossard bra factory, and there'd be occasionally and sort of magazines. I just remember this one day being a magazine strewn across this field, and there was these half-naked women, and in it really wasn't the sort of sexual attraction, although I just thought these women were beautiful and they were sexual, but it was the power that had got me and hooked me in from a very young age. And I was aroused by it and I was interested in it. And I remember the boys just fighting over, like, grabbing at these pages. And I was probably, how old was I? Like in junior school. And I think that's different from like the US. So I was probably about, I don't know, 8, 9.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it wasn't about the a sort of stirring of sexual feelings. It was a stirring of, this is power. This is how I can get men fighting over pictures of me. Wow. And it was such a small little seed that was planted. It wasn't like, 8 years old, right, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to be naked. And I think I'm a lot older than you. There wasn't that access to pornography that there is now. We weren't, this is pre-internet. So what we had was the K's catalogue, the underwear section of all of these big catalogues, fashion catalogues, that kind of thing. And it was just something, it was the first time I was exposed to something with naked skin, like, women in bras, and I was just transfixed.
Wow.
That's kind of where it started.
Yeah. Wow. That's really crazy. So you were in, it was because of all the bras and the magazines. It's how much more accessible it is now than it was then. Why do you think that it's so much more accessible now?
Because the devil is just roaming around and ramping things up, and I think it's those increments, and I sort of slowly cast my mind back, and I sort of think about even like my grandmother and the things that are on sort of Netflix and things that are on sort of TV now. She would be so horrified, but because these increments of just happen to us in such that creepy sort of increasing, don't really recognize it, and we're so automated, we're so programmable that it just seeps in that disgusting way, in that sugary coated way that the devil and Satan takes hold of our mind and sort of tries to disguise himself as non-existent being and all of this other stuff. And I just feel like it was always inevitable, one, It's like trying to stop a moving train.
Mm-hmm.
We know the end, we know it's coming, we can prepare for it, we need to battle up. But even then, for that time, that was as potent as, you know, an 8-year-old stumbling across something, you know, really graphic now, because they're dumbed down to it and they're numb to it. Me as an 8-year-old, you know, 30 plus years ago, that to me, and the allure and the glamour of these women and the beauty, you know, that was captivating, as I'm sure, you know, I'm seeing this from a purely sort of power position. I'm going to talk to you, you know, about how that has been the theme of my life, like using sex as power, as a tool, and ultimately as an energy harvesting power. Crazy hungry, crazy woman. Right?
Well, for one, I love that you're talking about this in a form of power, because that's exactly how I thought it was too. Like, if I know what a man wants, I can give that to them, and I thought that it was sex. So let me give that to them, so they never have to go to anything else. And so, how would you, like, how would you use the sex, or just the characteristic of putting on the lustful spirit to your advantage?
Well, yeah, I mean, so from there, obviously went into comprehensive, and, you know, you start, you know, looking at boys and girls. And at the time, yeah, I was sort of attracted to boys, thought I was attracted to boys, had an attraction to girls as well, was always lusting over that, but in a way of either wanting to be that woman, that sort of, again, that powerful kind of sexual woman, because she was just so attractive, but also just seeing the pull that she had. I wanted to be the woman, but I also was attracted to the woman because she had that kind of that thing over, you know, people and men. And so, yeah, just wanting to always be physically attractive. I've always been like sort of big chested. It's always one of those things. And growing up, I would be the first to make a joke of, like, I was always the one, the the person in the room who had like the biggest chest. And you can't get away from that. And in a way, again, it was a prideful thing. But I couldn't sort of shy away from it. I thought, actually, this is my body. I was always, you know, earliest developed, all these kind of things. And I know there was a point where I could have shied away from it. And instead, I used it as a power. So all of these things I know, looking back now, is the enemy thinking and putting me in that position to go, you are going to be a strong, powerful wheel for my, you know, the kingdom of darkness.
Wow.
And that is ultimately what I did. So going through, you know, sort of comprehensive, and just not even wanting to meet guys and wanting to be with guys where they're at. I wanted to almost devour them. And I wasn't even conscious that I was doing that. Like, and I would wind men up to the point where they would say that they loved me, and I would like literally just spit them out. I would wind them up in class and make jokes and sort of show that I was interested, or some way, or really be really flirty. And I got very, very good at flirting. I got very, very good at like really twisting that, and not in an obvious way, in a really subtle way, and in the ways that the devil's wiles do. And that's why I see that horrible spirit behind a lot of women. And, you know, I was at the forefront of that, and I saw that worming my way into those minds of guys. And I thought I was really proud of it. I was like, I can get this guy. I can just worm my way in.
Like a manipulative energy.
Horrific. Full on, you know, manipulation. And I remember this one guy just writing me a letter saying, you know, I love you. And I just wrote a sort of a really horrible F you back. I mean, it just literally wanted to just burn them. Like, it was horrific. That was hard.
Wow.
So my goal was never to, I think a part of me wanted to be intimate. Part of me obviously wanted togetherness and wanted to be with people and explore that. But it was always the best time on my own, and it was always about protecting myself, a lot of it. so that if I was in power, I wasn't going to get hurt as well.
Wow. I love that you described it like that, because I've heard a couple of my friends' testimonies say it more of like a power control thing, but I see myself in your testimony a lot, because I would always spit guys out, where it was like I would get them to, I would see how far I could go past the boundary line and want them to walk over the boundary line with me.
Yes.
But then as soon as they walked over the boundary line, it was like I reeled myself in so quick, where I was like, I don't want anything to do with you.
Yes, 100%. And I didn't even know what I was doing. Like I would be confused, thinking I really liked this guy and he was really sweet and funny and whatever. And yet I'm being like, as soon as I kind of accomplished my goal of getting him to a point of being so doe-eyed and so like, Heather, you're so amazing, and all of this kind of almost worship.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it now. And I didn't see it back then like that, but that's how it was. I would just be like, you're dead to me, bye.
Wow.
And that is totally come from the kingdom of darkness. That is totally satanic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And but I think but a lot of my friends were doing it. We thought it was empowering. We thought it was like, wow, strong sexual woman. She's just going out there. She's sort of like sleeping with this person, that person.
Mm-hmm.
I almost had like a checklist of all of these taboos, in terms of like, I sort of slept with my boss's brother. I'd slept with my friends, but like the people that you probably shouldn't have and wouldn't have. But I was almost like, but I need to take it off like some sort of sexual bingo. I didn't even know what I was doing.
Wow.
I was drunk on it.
Wow. That is so wild. So wild. So in terms of because all this stuff was more of when you were younger, right?
So that was over a span of like, sort of, that was growing up and into my mid to late 20s.
Okay.
In my 30s I had longer relationships, but in between that I sort of got addicted to starting to watch porn. Like the internet was a thing, even though it was dial-up. I didn't really, it wasn't as accessible then, and it was certainly something that would be frustrating, certainly for an impatient person like me to and it wasn't something I was drawn to. I was still hooked on who I can go out and get me to buy a drink, a drink for me, or just chat up or whatever. But I certainly got addicted to sex toys. And
sex toys?
Yeah.
And do you think that was because of pornography, or because of something else that someone showed you?
No, I think that was, again, following this stream of strong sexual, individual, woman, power, all of that. And I was like, I'm going to control it for myself. I'm going to do this for myself. And obviously I had those desires. I was just, and I thought it was perfectly natural and fine. And, there's a sort of a hippie part of me that was just like, yeah, man, just totally just doing my thing with all my 5 different vibrators.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've definitely been there.
We've got such a similar
it's crazy. So when you were in the new agey part of your world, and I'd love you to dive into that, but when you were in the new agey part of your world, pornography was more a thing, right?
Yeah, so I suppose over the last 10 years, I had to actually ditch the vibrators. I knew that was, it felt wrong. It started to feel a bit obsessive, and it felt a bit addictive. And I was like, there's something not right here. And it felt too much, because I couldn't. And again, because I'm such a control freak, I wanted to be the one in control. I was like, I don't feel in control of this anymore. So to reinstate my control, I sort of ditched them. And I actually met a guy who was like, Heather, I don't want you to use those. So I did that, for him. And I think we just started watching stuff together. There was a few relationships where we'd be watching pornography together.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they left, I'd still carry on watching pornography. And yeah, so it was the last 10 years that it kind of started with just like your basic two people having sex, and you just think, oh, and it's that horrible thing of like, it then doesn't satisfy enough.
Wow.
And you need more, and you need to go crazier, and you find yourself down some crazy dark holes, watching some things that you never thought you'd watch, and actually enjoying them and getting this hunger for something so dark. And it really, twists your head to the point where you're being secretive about it, and I felt like I was being secretive about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, you have no idea where you go on these porn sites. It's like one link to the next, and it's a variety of just every type of fetish on there. And like you're saying, it's like it gets darker and darker, and you didn't even know you'd be there. And it's like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
To this weird thing I didn't even know existed.
Exactly. And you get there because there is a drive, and because you're not fulfilled, you're not satisfied, it's ultimately hollow. But also, all of my artwork, I'm an art, sort of fine art graduate, and I'd be running life drawing classes and burlesque life drawing classes where we'd have like a theme, and there'd be like a sexy striptease, and then the people would hold poses. And I was really invested in knowing the sexual mind and knowing and understanding people's drives. I mean, it was a kind of course of study for me as well. So, my dissertation for my BA in fine art was all to do with fetishism and how we fetishize not only sort of overtly sexual things, but other things in our life. And it's sort of like a form of idolatry, but with a sort of a sexual intent. And so I had so many books, and I had my house was almost like a mini sex museum. I mean, I would go to Paris, I'd go to Amsterdam, because I wanted to go to those sex museums. I wanted to go and visit places that were doing interesting things to do, like whether it was performance art, whether it was that high-end, theatrical stuff, or whether it was just kind of behind closed doors, dirty, disgusting, whatever. I wanted to know, and so a part of me, again, is such a story of pride and power, that I was just like, yes, I know about all the different, nasophilia. I know all about how, different people, getting off with, on just, sucking and whatever of noses, or, all of these, like I was so entrenched in pursuing that knowledge. So this pride and this power and this seeking, I mean, it is laughable now looking at it from a biblical view and just saying, wow, are you just seeking power and knowledge from I mean, it's just
in a sense, did you feel like it was like, I've got to know all this stuff before everybody else does, and like you were taking all there too?
Always that. Always got to be the one knowing more than anybody in the room on any given subject. And that was like my area of speciality. My whole language was innuendo. My whole visual was innuendo. I remember from a very early age, I think I was 16, 17. And I visited London. I remember wearing this T-shirt that had a screen print of like some naked breasts on it. And I don't think anyone else had sort of, it was again from like Carnaby Street or like an early kind of punk shop. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. I thought, wow, that is so cool to wear a T-shirt with like these naked breasts that you could see. And I don't know, I was just so drunk on people knowing that I'm a sexual being, and that they couldn't kind of almost attain me, and it was all on my doing. That was really the thing.
Wow. Yeah, it's that spirit of lust that completely takes over and blinds us from anything else, and wants to tempt people and tease them and want them to have us while they can't. And It is a really demonic energy. It's so demonic. So I would love to hear you touch on like if this
Masterfesting.
say that again.
Masterfesting.
Yes, yes. That is a part of your testimony. I want to hear about it. And I know that there's other people that are listening who have probably experienced this as well. Maybe not as many, but I'd love to hear your testimony on it.
Yeah, sure. So as I was sort of growing in knowledge and power just on that side of, you know, things for myself, with sort of sexually, I was also exploring all of these self-healing and energy techniques. And by the way, all of this stuff I thought was absolutely fine and absolutely up for grabs and absolutely nothing but just loving. You know, I'm kind of phrasing it in such a creepy way because that's how I'm seeing it now. But I know at the time, I truly was entrenched in a belief that I was doing no harm to myself and I was doing no harm to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But as I started to learn about these other ways of like harnessing our sort of natural, energetic power, for a better word,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how this came about, how I kind of found out about this. It just sort of made sense to me. Somebody had said a few things, I kind of joined up the dots, where you know, people are obsessed by visualization and these vision boards. You know, on the vision board is the house, the dream house, and maybe a dream relationship, many, you know, foreign travel, things, items, whatever. No one's putting world peace on their vision boards, by the way, but just, you know, things of the flesh, of the world that people want. And, you know, I would put that in a certain corner. I had my compass out for like ley lines, the whole thing, you know, color therapy. It was just layered and layered and layered.
Mm-hmm.
And using just that power, that orgasmic power whilst masturbating, and using sort of visualization techniques to almost delude yourself into bringing it about, like we are God, we can create our own reality.
Mm-hmm.
And by harnessing this powerful and really sacred and beautiful state, I was just totally inverting that and trying to play God, and just, yeah. So people don't know what that is. This whole masterfesting is actually becoming more and more known and more used and more isolating, where people are just going off and masturbating and thinking and almost praying to the universe to bring them their desires.
Yeah.
And in that state, in that heightened state, that, you know, that all is possible, and they're being fed constantly, you know, you're worth it, you're beautiful, you know, you can have whatever you want, this is your abundant birthright. And it makes me sick, and it creeps me out, and my skin crawls now thinking that I was a part of that.
Yeah, when I did it, I literally thought that like you were saying, like we make ourselves the god of our own universe, and like I literally thought that I was creating everything and manifesting anything I wanted through masturbating, which is not good at all, not biblical, but that's what society is teaching us, that if we just use our orgasm to well, in a sense, it's like you're thinking on a specific thing and you're masturbating to it, and then you orgasm to that thought, and then hopefully it comes to you, you know? It sounds so demonic whenever I think about it now, but whenever I was in it before, it was like, oh, duh, like I'm just attracting things into me by my orgasm. And
it just seemed like perfectly reasonable thing to do. Like, right now, it's like,
this isn't
what?
reasonable at all.
It's like, yeah, that's a natural and normal, you know, well-adjusted person there. Just it's crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah.
And that is the horrifying deception of I don't like calling it new age because that sounds like something from the 70s, 80s. I'm it is law of attraction principles. It is the manifestation stuff. We do need a better term for that. Excuse me.
For sure.
A bandy term, but yeah, all of those energy harnessing. So if somebody was practicing law of attraction, they wouldn't call it new age. They would say, oh no, new age is something different. You know, I'm doing law of attraction. I know the real stuff. Wink, wink.
Exactly. Yeah, because I didn't even realize what I was doing was new age until I got out of it, and I was like, oh, it's this whole umbrella of just everything. But when you're in new age, you're just like, oh no, like I actually don't do that, but you do, but you don't call it that. So, but there does need to be another name for it as well. That's just the only.
I mean, witchcraft. I kind of call it that. Like somebody mentioned to me the other day, she's like, "Oh, you're a witch." Like she called it just like as a joke, and I was like, "Ooh, do not call me that." And she's like, "Oh no, sorry, you're an ex-witch." Like it's like, "Ooh, that's such a." Whereas before, somebody sort of said, "Oh, you know, Heather's just this light. She's like a white witch." I was like, "Yes, that's what I am. I'm so amazing."
Wow. Well,
just disgusting.
Yeah, I used to call myself a witch in that as well. And honestly, what we were doing was witchcraft. Like we're trying to manipulate the energies that be and pull in what we want instead of like what God wants for us. We were trying to manipulate that. And basically casting spells into the universe.
100%. Through our vaginas. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
It's absolutely it's just but to see it as I would have hated somebody saying that to me, and I'd be like, oh, you just don't get it, you're not in tune with this stuff, you're not in line with this stuff, you're so, you know, basic, you're really 3D. But that is what it is. I went to so did some traveling out in India and went to this tantric workshop. And of course I was like the first, of course I was right at the front. Of course I had to have an extra special relationship with the guy who ran it. It's, I mean, I'm sick of myself. I'm sick of myself. But I went into it thinking I knew everything anyway. And that was always my mindset. And it was just so incredible. It was so incredible when God opened my eyes and was just like, wow, I'm just going to show you you for real. And you're just going to decide whether you want to be that person or not.
For sure. And to our viewers, can you explain what Tantra and the Tantric practices involve?
Yeah, so Tantra is a branding term. But sexual Tantra is it's harnessing energy through, they use different systems. So they might use the chakra system, which is imagined sort of energy portals through the body, if you like. People are obsessed with chakras. Oh, my chakras are aligned, or the chakras not working, or they're not spinning, or they're spinning the wrong way around, or they're spinning backwards, or this chakra's out of balance, and it's just so inwardly focusing. But yes, to start at that like root chakra and your sacral chakra, it's all again about harvesting and harnessing energy to get to a point where you're not necessarily touching or involved in a sort of a sexual act, but your spirit is combining on that sort of sexual level, and then you go off and have sex. Wow. So it's all about opening up your vessel, allowing what you think is the other person that you're sort of sat opposite doing these staring exercises and just light touching exercises and trust exercises and all of these things that are in the physical plane, but you're like, now you're going to combine as one in your sort of your spirit point, in your highest point, in, you know, these chakra sort of above your head, all these sort of things. But ultimately what you're doing is you're opening yourself up to a demonic attack, a demonic activity, and demonic sex, basically.
Wow. Yeah, I love that you explained it like that. Whenever I used to do the tantric practices, I literally thought that it was one of the highest form of sex that I had ever entered, because I was like, whoa, like I've never experienced such a spiritual way of sex before. The person isn't just having sex with my body, but they're literally like very intentional about things. And in a sense, I feel like that's Satan's way of manipulating God's most perfect covenant, where it's spiritual, physical, mental,
Yeah,
all that. And he takes that outside of the covenant and is like, you can have it without it. You don't need
exactly.
it, but you're just intertwining with multiple people on
Yeah.
such a deep level and becoming one flesh with multiple people,
Yes.
eye gazing and stuff.
100%. And that's it. You're having a counterfeit version of what you can truly have with your husband or wife.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And he does that with everything. He does that with absolutely everything. And you just sort of feel like, oh, I'm still not quite satisfied. Like something off with this. But then you're so deluded because you're like, oh, but no, it's just so brilliant. And it's all about having these experiences. And it's just, you know, nobody really knows the truth. And we're all just like floating around. Like, I'm saying
Right.
that, like, that was me. That was absolutely me. It was absolutely me.
Mm-hmm. So when did you realize, like, oh, like when God opened your eyes and you were like, I need to stop watching pornography, I need to stop masturbating, I need to stop having this sexual
Yeah.
lust all over me? When did you find that out?
Oh, just praise God for his kindness to me. I yes, it was about a year ago, back in October 2018. I called out of Jesus, not having sort of this weird sort of, I was doing lots of different practices and things were getting very dark, very, very dark, very, very weird. I was being very isolated. People that I would normally talk to, they were either, you know, traveling, they were off. I was just on my own. And I remember being here one night and just seeing and feeling like the whole house was just creepy. And I was like, nothing's working. Like my usual sort of, you know, energy practices weren't working. Something was off. I kept looking at the lights and they were all crooked. Like it was just bizarre. And I just thought I could be losing my mind here, or I'm having a midlife crisis, or I don't know, something's going on. And I started feeling this darkness. Like I literally could see these swirling darkness above my mind, above my head. And I called out to Jesus. I'd been sort of led to just dip in and see a few videos that had come from, like, Doreen Virtue and Stephen and Josh Peck.
Mm-hmm.
They'd put out these small videos, and my phone kept getting stuck on them.
Wow.
I know, and I wasn't even following Doreen, and I didn't really like Doreen. Again, not did I like her, I just didn't like tarot, or I didn't like any of those things. I thought I was above that. I thought I sort of knew better than that. So it was weird that my phone kept getting stuck, and I was like, why is Doreen talking about Jesus? This is interesting. Anyway, I just thought, great for her, lovely, nothing to do with me, you know, whatever. Anyway, I ended up thinking, I'm going to call out to Jesus, and I'm just going to be open to what happens. And I did not expect to what happened that did happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there just being freaked out. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was just like, you know, Jesus, I feel harassed. There's something here, you know, please, I need you in this moment, help me. And the room went white, and
Wow.
I was just astonished. Like nothing had shocked me. Nothing has shocked me more than that being real.
Wow.
And I remember just going around my entire house and just sort of calling out, you know, for the name of Jesus to be just near me, or just be in this house, because I knew something was attacking me that I didn't have an understanding of. And prior to all this, all of that work that I was doing with energy, and I didn't have an understanding of the spiritual realm. I thought that, again, that was a very old way of looking at it, or a way of understanding it. I just thought it was energy. I thought it was all energy based, like an interactive universe. It wasn't actually spiritual beings. I just discounted that completely. And then I was just led. So after just literally 3 o'clock in the morning, screaming Jesus all around my house, checking out Buddhas, checking out my pyramid hat, checking out all my copper dowsing rod, like stupid things, I was just on my knees sobbing, as I believe the Holy Spirit was just saying, Heather, I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to show you in the raw, in the truth. And it was just the most beautiful way to show me my disgustingness. And I it's just the greatest time in my entire life. And all the spiritual practices I've done, all the forgiving ceremonies, the cord cutting ceremonies, the chakra things, the arms, the chanting, the yoga, you know, I've touched every single one of those techniques or mind. Oh, baby's still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, sorry.
I think my thing just went black, but
You did.
I hope
great.
we're still recording.
Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay, so out of all those,
so all of those things, nothing compared to that beautiful process of being brought into repentance by a truly loving being.
Wow. Yeah, that's
yeah.
There I am. But yeah, that's totally exactly how I feel. I've done what I feel like every other spiritual practice possible, and Jesus has been the only thing who has set straight.
Yes. And so I spent a whole week spent the whole week going, oh my goodness, how have I missed this? And just plunged into as much as I could. Again, all of my friends was like, my parents were on this cruise. My friend was flying, doing almost 24-hour flight. I couldn't get hold of him. And also I didn't want to speak to anybody because I didn't want to be, I knew that they'd be like, what are you talking about? Or that they just wouldn't understand. And I was in a totally different, I just needed to be just me and Jesus and just working this out because I just knew. And at the time, see, I would be either before that looking at porn or masturbating like daily. It wasn't even, you know, and multiple times daily sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, so I went from that to just being so freaked out. And then I remember that first time after being saved, after like understanding, you know, and having that conversation, well, who is Jesus? Is that just a metaphor? Is that just a thing? And he gave me this incredible vision about that just made complete sense to me. And I knew that he totally was God who came to earth, and he totally was that perfect lamb. And it all just made sense to me, you know, very quick, in a very short space of time. And it was all him. It was none of my previous understanding or any previous knowledge or study that I ever knew about the Bible, ever knew about following Christ. And I remember that first kind of night where it would have been normal or for me to just masturbate or do something. And I was just like so convicted, like, oh no, I just felt that creepiness. And I was just calling out to Jesus, saying, Jesus, take this away, just take this desire away. I do not want that desire. I know that this feels sticky, it feels wrong, it's not from you. And it went, and it just, that whole feeling of almost that weird visceral, it's like when you're on a sugar high. I kind of always imagine it like I've eaten too many jelly babies. And I'm like, ooh, I just need to have that kind of sexual release or something.
Yeah.
And I went to sleep, and I had the most disgusting sexual thoughts, the most disgusting sexual dreams, where I could hear all of these things just sort of talking to me, saying, you like girls, and you like little girls, and you like, and it was disgusting. Like, it was really beyond. And I knew, I like, wow, guys, if you're convicting me even more now. Like, if I was ever on the fence of there being demonic activity, now you're proving it to me, because this is disgusting. I know it couldn't have come from my mind. So it's got to have come from somewhere else.
Oh yeah.
That was that.
He tries to pull us back in by by our dreams. Like Satan tries to pull us back in through our dreams to show us like, for like, this is what we want, like you might as well keep doing it, and tempts us with those sexual dreams when Jesus is holding tightly onto us.
Yes.
Man.
Yes. And there was times where in that first couple of weeks where I would wake up and I didn't know whether it was just like my body was just not used to having that sort of sexual high, being in an orgasmic state. But I'd wake up almost having like an orgasm. And that's never really, I mean, it's happened to me in the past, but I was always doing it sort of so consciously in the day that I wouldn't have needed to, do you know what I mean, to wake up after. So I was just like, wow, this, and I even halfway through an orgasm, and I sometimes think it's one of those things that you feel like, again, it's one of those fast moving trains you can't stop. But I called out, I was like, Jesus, take this away. Like, I don't want this. I don't want to even feel this. I don't want to be, connected to this. And it went like halfway through having an orgasm.
Wow.
It's almost sort of like, but that's physically impossible because you're like you're like in midpoint of having an orgasm. I just went, no.
And the Lord took it away.
Took it away.
That's
went. So grateful. Nothing for me, just so grateful. And I think I've spoken to this before about there's just no way that I look at porn. There's just no way that I even wanted to see anything on like just normal terrestrial TV where people were starting to like, maybe gonna go and have sex in a regular movie or TV or something. I was just always like, oh, I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
And I just love this day where I was just sat around and I was just thinking, and like I was almost trying to test my mind to think about like two naked bodies, and I couldn't picture the genitals. Like it was like pixeled out.
Wow.
Almost like Jesus had come in and just pixeled. I was just like, this is brilliant and hilarious, but this is the transformation.
And you loved it. Like what the Lord was doing to your mind and just renewing you.
Yes.
Oh, that's so good.
It was so good. And I just haven't looked at porn. I haven't wanted to. I've had no desire to. I've had desires to masturbate. And over that year, that full year, since I was sort of being saved, I think I did that, and it was horrible, and it was disgusting, and it felt horrific, and it was a point where I was sort of testing a little bit. One point where I just felt like I was going to explode, and I just thought I don't need it, and it was for me going from like sometimes, in the past having sex 7 times a day to like not even masturbating for, I don't know, 6 months at a time. That's phenomenal. That is like people who know me and would know who I was, that sexual self. That's like, okay, something has happened to Heather, because that's not normal Heather.
That's literally Jesus.
That's literally Jesus. That is literally Jesus. And it's not because, and I sort of said that I spoke to you about this, it's not because I'm such a great follower of Christ, because we all stumble. It's because especially in that early stages, I was so convicted of how disgusting and how demonic and how depraved beyond, I think, even our imagination that is. I just didn't want anything to do with it. And having had that experience, which I'm so grateful for, just being so freaked out, being the most frightened I've ever been, and just being sort of almost losing my mind, I just wouldn't touch it, because I know how it can open up to, just do it again, that horrible creepiness.
For sure. Wow. I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing. So to the people on the other end who are listening, who are still struggling with pornography, what can you tell them to encourage them to let it go, or just encourage them through this journey as the Lord is revealing more and more to them about this?
Yeah, I just think, what, it's so great having examples of people who, with Jesus, having Christ help, he can get it done. He absolutely can get it done. And you know what? I had such a big faith in the universe. I had such a huge faith that it would always deliver me money. It would always deliver me sex. It would always deliver me boyfriends. It would always deliver me what I wanted. I just transferred that 100% to Jesus. And that, is to, that the credit of his divine timing of showing me, okay, I'm going to teach you up. I'm going to allow you to be taught up in the demonic. So, I'm going to use you, hopefully, to show, actually, I can just totally just dump that on Jesus. I know it's him, because no way can I do that on my own. And I don't think, we're certainly not called to do it on our own. Like, even though we're like, okay, Jesus, I got the message, we don't want us to do that. Okay, let me go off and do it and try to do it on my own. No, you do every single bit with him. Even if it feels like, oh, it's embarrassing, I don't want to sort of speak to even Jesus about it. I'm ashamed to even, bring it to him. I'm ashamed. He wants you to be super, super honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not honest with yourself, I think that's where it starts. If you're not honest with yourself and you kind of think, oh, no, it's, I'll get around to it. I'll poo-poo it. That, which I do in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I'm kidding myself here. I need to just be honest and go, yeah, Jesus, I'm just nothing here. I'm nothing. I need you 100% on this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to help. I don't know, but I think, yeah, being honest and just knowing that it can and it is 100% possible to just be so free of it.
Mm-hmm. Amen. That is so good. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. It was so good. It's so good to hear someone's perspective on the demonic realms, the tantric, all that, because I know people have been diving into that stuff as well. And man, it's things that need to be talked about inside the church. So I'm so glad that you're just able to speak to it. If you have any last words to say to the people listening, I would love for you to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to share just one short story, if I can, about what happened this year, where I was chatting with a guy and I thought, oh, God's given me a husband. Like, we were chatting and we were going to meet up and it was going to be really good. And it didn't end up happening. And I was really crushed. And I was like, I don't understand why, God, like, why? I'd be such a great wife. I'd be all of these things. And he showed me beautifully again, as he did day one, just showed me my heart and was just like, Heather, and this is how I feel like he showed me, Heather, you would have gone there, you would have flirted with his friends, flirted with his brother, like you would have just wound him up, as he needed to show me that I was still in pursuit of the power, the sexual power that I could have over men, and to really unroot that, and to really take every last bit of that out, even under the veil where I was pretending, oh no, I'd be so good, and I was almost packing in my mind what I'd wear, and I'm like, ooh, that's modest, but it's also going to be quite sexy, as in not overtly sexy, but I know it'd be tight in certain areas, all of those things. And I was like, Heather, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
God's going to just see straight through that, and you haven't even seen it, you haven't even caught it. And I was just the relief of that, and just the relief of wow, he really cares. He doesn't want me to do this sort of half baked and then just to make a fool of myself and to get even more confused. He's going to be like, no, don't try and sort of pretend that you're going to, even though logically now I see the beauty of how he's laid out a relationship to a man and a woman, and I'm signed up and like, oh yes. Mm-hmm. But in my heart there was that root that was still there, and it was a beautiful lesson to learn.
Wow, that is so good. I'm so glad that the Lord showed you that, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. It's crazy how we sometimes think that the Lord is like sending us a husband or sending because I've done that as well, where I'm just like, is this him, Lord? Is this him? And I'm like, why am I doing that? Like, for one, you're my husband. I need to be so just giving myself to you and not having eyes for other people, you know? Yeah, because in those time periods, like you're saying, like we aren't even ready. He's preparing us.
Yes.
It's a power. What'd you say?
I'd make such a mess of it, and then I'd get all confused, and then I'd want to be. It is more about I was going to be the one who wanted to be in control of it. I was like, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to make this guy fall madly in love with me because I know all the tricks.
Right.
You know, but now I've got this branding like over it of like, but I'm a Christian as well. So like, hello, I'm just like the total package right now.
Right.
It's so ridiculous.
That is hilarious. That is so funny. Well, guys, I'm so glad that we got to hear Heather's story. If you guys have any questions, Heather, where can they reach you at?
So yeah, I hang out mostly on Instagram at The Law of Distraction. I'd love to chat with people who are going through anything that they feel like is like that sexual sort of demonic, struggling with addiction with porn. I know your ministry is excellent for that as well. But yeah, if they want to chat with me as well, come find me.
Yes, go find her, ask her questions, leave her comments. Thank you so much for being on and sharing your story. And to everybody else, I just pray that you found so much encouragement through Heather's story. Have a great rest of your day.